The Imperial scout ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of an unremarkable solar system. Its sleek purple hull gleamed under the light of a yellow star. Inside the bridge, First Scout Master Reed of the Galactic Empire studied the holographic display with his 4 eyes, each one focusing on different data streams. "Another primitive system," he muttered, his tentacles waving in boredom. "Let's catalog it and move." He stopped mid-sentence. The readings from the 3rd planet caught his attention. "Captain, we're detecting significant radio waves and artificial satellites around the 3rd planet," one of his crew members reported. "And there's a small colony on their moon, plus another on the 4th planet." Reed straightened in his command chair. This was unexpected. Most species took thousands of years to achieve space travel after discovering radio waves. These creatures had done it in less than 2 centuries. "Show me the dominant species," he ordered. The hologram shifted to display images of humans going about their daily lives. Reed found them strange. Only 2 eyes, no tentacles, and they walked on just 2 legs. How inefficient. "They call themselves humans," his science officer informed him. "They've only recently achieved basic space flight capabilities. Their weapons are primitive, mostly chemical explosives and simple nuclear devices." Reed's mouth tentacles curled into what his species considered a smile. This would earn him a promotion. The Empire always needed new worlds and new species to rule. These humans would make excellent servants, once properly conquered. Following standard protocol, Reed sent his findings to Imperial Command. The response came quickly. "Prepare for diplomatic contact. Victory Fleet incoming." 3 days later, the Victory Fleet arrived. 20 massive warships, each one large enough to cast shadows on Earth's cities. The Empire always believed in making an impression. Commander James stood in Earth's United Defense Force headquarters, watching the alien ships on the massive screen. At 45 years old, he had spent his entire military career preparing for this moment. He just hadn't expected it to come so soon. "What's their message saying again?" he asked the communication officer. "They're broadcasting in multiple frequencies," the officer replied. "Basic content. Submit to the Galactic Empire or face extinction. We have 4 Earth days to respond." James rubbed his chin, studying the alien ship's formation. Despite their impressive size, he noticed something interesting. They used very basic geometric patterns. Predictable. Rigid. That could be useful. In the Imperial flagship, High Commander Vale received the initial reports about Earth's military capabilities. His species resembled tall, elegant insects, and his chitinous armor gleamed under the ship's lights. "Their strongest weapons couldn't even scratch our shields," one of his officers reported. "Their space vessels are primitive tubes powered by chemical fuel. They have no chance against us." Vale clicked his mandibles in amusement. "Send the standard intimidation package. Show them our planet cracker in action on an abandoned moon in their system. That usually convinces the primitive ones quickly." But the humans' response surprised them. Instead of panic or immediate surrender, Earth's governments unified overnight. The United Defense Force mobilized globally. Civilian scientists and engineers were called up to analyze the alien ship's every move. Commander James stood before the World Defense Council, his voice firm. "They expect us to be primitive, scared animals," he said. "But that's their mistake. They don't understand that humanity's greatest strength comes from being underestimated." He pointed to the tactical display. "They think size and advanced technology make them invincible. But look at their formations, their predictable patterns. They've forgotten the art of real warfare. They'd grown comfortable, complacent." The council members leaned forward as James outlined his plan. It was risky, unexpected, and possibly insane. In other words, perfectly human. In orbit, High Commander Vale received Earth's official response to the Empire's ultimatum. He read it twice, not believing the translator at first. The message was simple: "We decline your generous offer. However, we have a counter-proposal. Leave now or learn why humans are the only species that had to invent thousands of ways to fight each other before reaching the stars." Vale's mandibles clicked in anger. The humans would learn their place, just like all the others. He gave the order to begin the invasion, completely unaware that he was about to start a war that would change the galaxy forever. High Commander Vale chose Mars for the Empire's first demonstration of power. The human colony there, barely 4,000 people strong, would serve as a perfect example to Earth. The Imperial fleet positioned 3 ships above the Red Planet's largest dome city. "Begin the bombardment," Vale ordered. "Let's show these primitives what real power looks like." But as the Imperial ships charged their weapons, something unexpected happened. The dome city disappeared. What? Vale's mandibles clicked in confusion. Scan the surface. The humans had built their entire Mars colony on massive underground rail systems. Within minutes of detecting the Imperial ship's approach, they had retracted their surface structures completely underground, leaving nothing but empty desert for the Empire to shoot at. Commander James watched the situation from Earth's Defense Command. "Report from Mars Colony," his communications officer announced. "Operation Mole successful. All civilians secured underground. And sir, they've activated Project Sandstorm." James allowed himself a small smile. The Empire didn't realize that humans had been preparing for alien invasions for over a century. Every science fiction movie, every book, had added to humanity's collective preparation. On Mars, thousands of hidden ports opened across the surface. The Empire's sensors registered movement too late. Millions of tiny robots, each no bigger than a fingernail, launched into the thin Martian atmosphere. These were the Sandstorm drones, designed to work in swarms. Minor irritants detected. An Imperial officer reported dismissively. Some kind of primitive robotic devices. The Empire's arrogance proved costly. The Sandstorm drones weren't weapons. They were scouts. Each one carried detailed scanning equipment. Within hours, humanity had complete scans of Imperial ship design, shield frequencies, and weapon systems. Back on Earth, thousands of scientists worked around the clock, analyzing the data. Humanity's greatest advantage wasn't technology. It was speed of adaptation. Vale, furious at the humans' evasion, ordered a direct attack on Earth's moon base. "No more games," he growled. "Full power to the main cannons." But the moon base had its own surprise. As Imperial ships approached, they detected no life signs. The base appeared empty. Vale ordered the attack anyway, and his ships reduced the moon base to rubble. "Send the humans images of their destruction," Vale commanded. "Let them see the price of defiance." The response came from an unexpected direction. The supposedly destroyed moon base had been a decoy. The real base, hidden on the dark side of the moon, launched its counterattack. Hundreds of small ships emerged from hidden craters. Unlike Earth's chemical rockets, these vessels used stolen Imperial technology. During the Mars scanning operation, humans had already begun adapting alien tech to their own ships. "Impossible," Vale roared as the human ships approached. "They couldn't have copied our technology so quickly." But they had. The human ships were crewed by Imperial standards, hybrid machines combining Earth and alien technology. They shouldn't have worked at all. But they did. Major Thomas led the attack from the lunar hidden base. "Remember the plan," he transmitted to his pilots. "We don't need to destroy them. We just need to prove we can hurt them." The hybrid ships launched their weapons, simple nuclear missiles modified with scanned Imperial shield frequencies. The Empire's shields, calibrated to stop energy weapons, hadn't been designed to handle physical impacts combined with nuclear detonations. 2 Imperial ships suffered heavy damage before Vale ordered a retreat to a higher orbit. For the first time in centuries, the Empire had been forced to withdraw from a battle. In the Imperial flagship, Vale received a priority message from the Empire's Central Command. "Situation more complex than anticipated. Hold position. Full invasion fleet being prepared." On Earth, Commander James addressed the World Defense Council. "We've bloodied their nose," he said, "but this is just the beginning. They'll be back with everything they have." An older council member spoke up. Can we win against their full fleet? James looked at the tactical display, showing the positions of Earth's rapidly growing hybrid fleet. We don't need to win, he replied. We just need to make victory cost more than they're willing to pay. And if there's one thing humans excel at, it's making things expensive for invaders. The council chamber filled with grim nods. Humanity had spent its entire history fighting itself. Now, finally, they had someone else to fight instead. The Imperial full invasion fleet arrived 1 week later. 500 warships emerged from hyperspace, their massive hulls blocking out the stars. Leading them was Fleet Master Gray, the Empire's most decorated commander in 10,000 years of conquest. Primitives, Gray addressed his fleet, his 6 eyes glowing with anticipation. Always the same story. They get lucky once, then they die. His species, resembling tall humanoids with gray skin and multiple eyes, was known for their strategic brilliance. But Earth had spent the week preparing. Commander James had studied human history, particularly the stories of how smaller forces defeated larger ones. The British once ruled a quarter of Earth with just ships and discipline, he told his staff. The Mongols conquered Asia with just horses and tactics. Size isn't everything. The Empire struck first, targeting Earth's major cities, but they found only empty buildings. Humanity had learned from the Mars attack. Most major populations were already in underground shelters. Sir, one of Gray's officers reported, the humans are using their own cities as bait. They've rigged them with explosives. Gray learned this the hard way when his forces tried to land in New York. The entire city had been turned into a trap. Imperial ground forces found themselves fighting in a maze of booby-trapped buildings and automated defense systems. Pull back from the cities, Gray ordered. Target their agricultural areas instead. We'll starve them out. But humans had planned for this too. Real farms were hidden underground, in vast complexes using artificial light. What the Empire saw on the surface were decoys. Commander James watched from the hidden command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. Status of Project Lightning, he asked. Ready, sir, his chief scientist replied. We've modified 40% of our satellites with the new systems. Project Lightning was humanity's counterpunch, using reverse-engineered Imperial technology. Humans had turned their thousands of satellites into electromagnetic pulse weapons. When Gray's fleet moved to attack Earth's surface, the satellites activated. Hundreds of EMP bursts hit the Imperial ships. Their shields were designed to stop physical attacks and energy weapons, but not the specific electromagnetic frequencies humans had discovered in their research. 20% of their fleet is experiencing system failures, James's tactical officer reported. Their ships weren't built with backup systems like ours. They never expected to need them. Gray's response was brutal. His remaining ships launched planet cracker weapons designed to split a world apart. But Earth scientists had been studying these too. Major Thomas led the defense from a secret base in orbit. His ships, now fully hybrid human Imperial technology, carried special missiles. As the planet crackers approached Earth, the missiles intercepted them. Instead of exploding, they attached themselves to the weapons. Hack them, Thomas ordered. Earth's computer experts, who had spent decades protecting against and creating computer viruses, went to work. The Imperial software, designed for reliability rather than security, didn't stand a chance. The planet crackers turned around and headed back to the Imperial fleet. Impossible, Gray shouted as his own weapons approached. No species has ever. We've never. His ship barely escaped as 3 planet crackers detonated among his fleet, destroying 60 ships. But the Empire's numbers were still overwhelming. They began a systematic attack on Earth's defense networks. Humans lost satellites by the hundreds. Ground bases were discovered and destroyed. The Imperial fleet's sheer size was beginning to tell. Commander James called an emergency meeting with the World Defense Council. We've hurt them, he said, but we can't win a direct fight. Not yet, but we've proven something important. They can bleed. What's our next move? asked the council leader. James pointed to a star map. The Empire thinks they have us pinned in our solar system, but thanks to the technology we've captured, we now know where their supply lines are. And humans have a long history of successful guerrilla warfare. He looked at each council member. They expect us to defend, to turtle up and try to survive. Instead, we're going to take the fight to them, hit their supply lines, raid their worlds, make them learn what humans do best, adapt, improvise, and turn their own strength against them. The council voted unanimously to approve the plan. As the meeting ended, James received word that Imperial ships were beginning another attack run. "Let them come," he said quietly. "Every attack teaches us more about them. And unlike them, we learn fast." Admiral Wilson stood on the bridge of Earth's first true starship, the Thunder. Unlike the hybrid vessels before it, this ship was built from the ground up with both human innovation and Imperial technology. Its hull was black, making it nearly invisible against space. "Status of the gravity drive?" she asked her engineering chief. "Ready, Admiral." Those Imperial engineers never thought to use gravity as a weapon. They only use it for travel. The Thunder led a fleet of 50 similar ships, hiding in the dark side of Jupiter. They were about to try something no species had ever attempted before. Fleet Master Gray was growing frustrated. 3 months of constant attacks had failed to break Earth's defenses. Worse, his supply ships were disappearing. Somehow, humans had slipped past his blockade and were attacking Imperial supply lines. "Report from Central Command," his communication officer announced. "They're sending the Second Imperial Fleet to support us. 10,000 ships." Gray's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Finally, not even these humans can stand against such power. But Commander James and Admiral Wilson had planned for this. They had studied Earth's naval battles, particularly how smaller forces defeated larger ones. The Battle of Salamis, the Spanish Armada, Midway, all victories of the smaller force against the larger. "Begin Operation Gravity," Wilson ordered. The Thunder and its sister ships activated their modified gravity drives at full power. In space, gravity was a force few species weaponized. The Empire used it only for propulsion and stabilization. But humans had read their own science fiction. They knew gravity could be a terrible weapon. The Imperial ships, clustered in tight formations, suddenly found themselves being pulled together. Their own mass worked against them. Larger ships crashed into smaller ones. Formations broke apart as ships tried to escape the artificial gravity wells. "What's happening?" Gray demanded as his flagship's sensors showed chaos spreading through his fleet. The Thunder's fleet struck from multiple angles. Their ships were designed to operate in extreme gravity conditions. The Imperial ships weren't. "Sir," Gray's tactical officer shouted, "the humans are using Jupiter's gravity along with their artificial gravity wells. They're pulling our ships into the gas giant." Wilson watched as dozens of Imperial ships, caught between Jupiter's massive gravity and the artificial wells created by human ships, were torn apart or pulled into the gas giant's atmosphere. "They never considered this," she said quietly. "They've had gravity control for so long, they forgot it could be used for more than just travel." The Second Imperial Fleet arrived in the middle of this chaos, but instead of turning the tide, they only added to the confusion. Their tight, organized formations became death traps as the human gravity weapons turned their own mass against them. Commander James, coordinating from Earth, received the battle updates with grim satisfaction. "How many ships lost?" he asked his staff. "We've lost 12 ships," his tactical officer reported. "The Empire has lost over 2,000. Most were crushed by their own fleet's mass or pulled into Jupiter. They're retreating, sir." For the first time in 10,000 years, an Imperial fleet was running away. Fleet Master Gray's ship barely escaped the gravity wells. His fleet was in ruins. The Second Imperial Fleet, meant to ensure victory, had instead witnessed the Empire's greatest defeat. "Send word to Central Command," he ordered, his voice shaking. The humans, they don't think like any species we've encountered. They turned everything into a weapon, even space itself. Back on the Thunder, Admiral Wilson was already planning the next phase. The Empire built their fleets for fighting in open space, she told her crew. They never had to worry about terrain, about using the environment. That's their weakness. She pointed to the tactical display showing the solar system. Every asteroid, every moon, every planet's gravity well. These are our allies. We've spent our history fighting in deserts, jungles, mountains, and oceans. Now we'll teach them how to fight in the terrain of space. The Empire had expected to find primitives. Instead, they found a species that had spent its entire history learning to fight in every possible environment. A species that looked at the most basic forces of nature and asked, how can we use this as a weapon? As the human fleet regrouped, Admiral Wilson sent a message to Earth. Operation Gravity successful. The Empire has learned their first lesson about humans. We don't follow their rules of war. We make our own. The Imperial Central Command called an emergency meeting for the first time in 5,000 years. The massive council chamber was filled with representatives from all the Empire's ruling species. Their defeat at Jupiter had shaken the Empire's confidence. How did we lose 2,000 ships to primitives? Demanded the High Council leader, his crystalline body flashing with angry red lights. Meanwhile, humanity wasn't waiting for the Empire's next move. Commander James and Admiral Wilson had spent months studying stolen Imperial star charts. They found something interesting. The Empire's worlds were too perfectly spaced. Look at this, James pointed to the map. Every Imperial world is exactly the same distance from supply routes. They're too organized, too predictable. Wilson nodded. They built their empire like they build their fleets. Everything in neat, tidy patterns. No human empire ever grew that way. Earth's new fleet was ready. 500 ships, each equipped with gravity weapons and other human innovations. But instead of attacking in one large group like the Empire, they split into small squadrons of 5 ships each. Remember Earth's history, James told his squadron leaders. The Mongols didn't conquer Asia with one big army. They used small, fast groups that struck from multiple directions. The first Imperial world to face human warfare was a farming planet called First Harvest by the Empire. They expected a large fleet to attack their defenses. Instead, small groups of human ships appeared and disappeared around the planet, striking from random directions. They're not following any pattern, the planetary governor reported frantically. They attack, vanish into their dark running mode, then appear somewhere else. Dark running was another human innovation. They had discovered that Imperial sensors relied too much on active scanning. By running silent and cold, human ships could virtually disappear. The Imperial response fleet arrived at First Harvest to find the planet's orbital defenses destroyed and its supply ships gone. The human squadrons had already moved on to their next targets. 6 more worlds report similar attacks, reported an Imperial admiral to the High Council. The humans, they're not trying to conquer our worlds. They're disrupting our entire supply network. Commander James watched the reports from Earth's new forward base, hidden in an asteroid field. How many Imperial ships pulled back from Earth to defend their worlds? He asked. Almost 60% of their invasion fleet, his intelligence officer replied. They have to protect their supply lines. This was classic human strategy, forcing a larger enemy to spread itself thin. The Empire had to defend every world, every supply line. The humans only needed to attack where the Empire was weakest. Admiral Wilson led a bold strike directly at an Imperial shipyard. Her ships emerged from dark, running right in the middle of the facility. They keep their ships in neat rows, she told her crew, just like they do everything else. Perfect targets. The gravity weapons did their work. Imperial ships under construction were torn apart. The shipyard's organized layout became its weakness as human weapons turned its own mass against it. But the Empire was learning, slowly. At the next world, Imperial ships tried to copy human tactics, breaking into smaller groups. But they couldn't match humans' experience with guerrilla warfare. "They're trying to fight like us," James observed, watching the battle recordings. "But they don't understand why our tactics work. They're just copying without understanding." Wilson's fleet struck deeper into Imperial space. Each attack taught them more about Imperial weaknesses. The Empire had grown soft from thousands of years without real challenge. Message from the captured Imperial database. James's intelligence officer reported, "We've confirmed something interesting. The Empire hasn't faced a serious war in over 10,000 years. Most of their tactics come from computer simulations." James smiled grimly. No wonder they can't adapt. They'd forgotten that real war isn't about following perfect patterns. It's about chaos, adaptation, and survival. The Empire was facing something they had never encountered. A species that treated chaos as an ally rather than an enemy. A species that had learned warfare not through simulations, but through millennia of actual combat. As news of human victories spread, other species in the Empire began to watch and wonder. If these primitives could fight the Empire, what else was possible? The Imperial Palace on the capital world shook as thousands of protesters filled the streets. Not just humans this time. Dozens of species that the Empire had ruled for millennia were rising up. "How did this happen?" the Emperor demanded. His crystalline body pulsed with dark colors of fury. "First these humans humiliate our fleets, and now our own subjects rebel." Admiral Wilson observed the chaos from her flagship Thunder. The human fleets had pushed deep into Imperial space, but their greatest weapon wasn't their gravity drives or stealth technology. It was something simpler: information. "Play the broadcast again," she ordered. The screen showed footage from their battles. Human ships dancing through Imperial formations, using creativity and unpredictable tactics. But more importantly, it showed Imperial ships running away. The Empire told its people they were invincible. Commander James explained in a message from Earth, "We proved they weren't. That's more dangerous to them than any weapon." Reports flooded in from across Imperial space. The blue-skinned people of the trading worlds had declared independence. The warrior clans of the Ridge planets, who had served as Imperial soldiers for thousands of years, were turning against their masters. "Incoming transmission from the Ridge warriors," Wilson's communication officer announced. "They're asking for training." Wilson understood. The Empire had forced all its subjects to fight the same way: organized, predictable, ineffective. The Ridge warriors wanted to learn human warfare. On Earth, Commander James met with the World Defense Council. "The Empire is facing rebellions on 40% of its worlds," he reported. "Their fleets are scattered, trying to maintain control." "Can we trust these aliens?" a council member asked. "The Ridge warriors were our enemies last week." James nodded. "They were soldiers following orders, but we showed them something they'd never seen: freedom to think and fight creatively. That's more valuable to warriors than any victory." The Empire's response was predictable. They tried to crush the rebellions with overwhelming force, but they had learned the wrong lessons from fighting humans. "They're copying our tactics badly," Wilson observed as she watched Imperial ships attempt guerrilla strikes. "They don't understand that our strength isn't in the tactics themselves. It's in our ability to adapt and create new ones." The Thunder led a fleet to support a Ridge warrior rebellion. The Imperial ships they faced were disorganized, caught between trying to fight their traditional way and poorly copying human methods. "Look how they fight," Wilson told her crew. "They're trying to follow two different sets of rules at once. That's why they're failing." The Empire's rigid command structure began to collapse. Orders from the capital were ignored as local commanders tried to adapt to the chaos. Some surrendered to human forces. Others joined the rebels. In the Imperial Palace, the Emperor received devastating news. The Empire's greatest secret was about to be revealed. "Sir," his aide reported, "the humans have captured the historical archives on World Zero. They know the truth about our origins. Commander James read the translated archives with growing amazement. This changes everything, he told the council. The Empire wasn't built by natural development. They found advanced technology left by an ancient species. They didn't earn their power. They just copied it. That explains so much. Why Imperial technology never seemed to advance. Why they couldn't adapt or innovate. They had been following an instruction manual for 10,000 years, never truly understanding the principles behind their own technology. Wilson used this knowledge to plan the final strike. Their entire society is built on copied knowledge, she told her fleet commanders. They don't understand their own technology as well as we do now, because we had to learn it from scratch. The Thunder led the combined human and rebel fleets toward the Imperial capital. Behind them came ships from 40 different species, each adding their own innovations to human tactics. The Empire had thought their technology made them invincible. Instead, it had made them stagnant. They had spent 10,000 years as users of power, while humans had spent their history as creators of it. As the rebel fleet approached the capital, Wilson sent a message to Earth. The Empire is finished. They never understood the most important human trait. We don't just copy success, we improve upon it. The Imperial capital world looked strange without its massive defense fleet. Where thousands of Imperial ships once floated in perfect formation, now a mixed fleet of human and rebel vessels maintained a protective orbit. The rigid patterns were gone, replaced by an ever-changing, adaptive defense screen. Commander James walked through the former Imperial Palace, now serving as the meeting place for the new Galactic Council. Representatives from over 50 species filled the chambers, their voices mixing in dozens of languages as they discussed the future. The humans aren't demanding to rule, one Ridge warrior said to his companions. They're teaching us instead, teaching us how to think for ourselves. Admiral Wilson stood at the main control center, studying the ancient technology they'd discovered beneath the palace. The Empire's great secret lay exposed. Massive computers containing technical knowledge from a long-dead species called the Founders. They found this technology and just copied it, she explained to the gathered representatives. Never tried to understand it. Never tried to improve it. That's why they couldn't beat us. They were users, not innovators. In the main council chamber, James addressed the gathered species. The Empire kept you separated, he said. Made you all fight the same way, think the same way. They feared what would happen if you learned to be different. The blue-skin trading world's representative stood up. And now, what will humans do with their victory? James smiled. We're going to do what humans always do, learn and teach. Every species here has something unique to offer. The Empire tried to erase those differences. We want to embrace them. The changes came quickly. The Ridge warriors combined their natural strength with human tactical flexibility, creating new fighting styles. The trading worlds added their mathematical skills to human innovation, improving spaceship designs beyond what the Empire had achieved in thousands of years. Look at this, Wilson showed James a month later. On her screen, a Ridge warrior ship demonstrated a new combat maneuver, combining their natural four-armed reflexes with human gravity weapon technology. They're not just copying us anymore. They're creating their own ways of fighting. The former Imperial military adapted slowly. Many officers struggled to think independently after millennia following rigid protocols. But the younger ones learned eagerly, especially after seeing the historical archives of human warfare. Your species fought so much, a young Imperial officer told James. We thought that made you primitive. We didn't understand it made you stronger. In the heart of the former palace, researchers from 20 species worked together studying the Founders' technology. But unlike the Empire, they didn't just copy it. They questioned it, improved it, combined it with their own ideas. The Empire feared chaos, Wilson explained to a group of alien scientists. They tried to impose perfect order on the galaxy. But humans learned long ago that the best systems are the ones that can handle chaos, adapt to it, even use it. 6 months after the Empire's fall, the new Galactic Council made its first major decision. They would not create another empire. Instead, they established the Galactic Federation, where each species could develop in its own way while sharing knowledge and resources. There's one more thing, James told the council. We need to write a warning, not just about humans, but about the danger of fearing change and innovation. The warning was carved into a massive monument in the council chamber, written in 50 languages. The empire fell not because humans were stronger, but because they never stopped learning. They turned their greatest weakness, their constant conflicts, into their greatest strength, the ability to adapt and improve. Let this be a lesson to all species. True power lies not in copying greatness, but in creating it. Back on Earth, the World Defense Council received the final report from James and Wilson. Humanity's first interstellar war had ended not just